Just a few numbers. I think it's important for people to realize the epidemic proportions of this issue. In 2015, Alaska's opioid overdose rate was higher than the national average at 11 per 100,000 population. More than 90 of our fellow Alaskans died of opioid abuse in 2016. 2/3 of the opioid abuse deaths were related to a prescription opioid, Mr. President. And the majority of people who use heroin and other illicit opioids in recent years report that they first became hooked when using prescription opioid painkillers, often due to the advice of a trusted and well-meaning provider. A lot of it is sports related, on the treatment of pain for sports injuries. One adult recreational softball league in Alaska with roughly 750 participants has said 5 players die of opioid abuse. Another group of victims is newborns, Mr. President. It increased 7-fold for newborn addiction from less than 3 to over 18 cases per 1,000 live births in Alaska. And then some people want to know why we're dealing with opioid abuse now with this budget crisis that we're having. And the reality of it is our approach is multifaceted. It's an Alaskan priority for a lot of reasons, and part of it is cost. Education. Educators are dealing with fractured families because of the high proportion of families that are impacted by opioid addiction, which most often starts with prescription opioid drugs. And then the cost of DPS, law, corrections. It's the #1 cause of crime in the state of Alaska. It's the #1 cause of crime in the state of Alaska. It is absolutely an epidemic in our state, Mr. President. And I'm just going to tell you a little story, and this is just one that every Alaskan family can relate to. Grandma was here for Christmas. She tripped over the dog. She was carrying a tray of sandwiches, rode them down to the ground, and broke her humerus. Okay? Grandma was 86. She insisted that we eat the sandwiches before we took her to the hospital. And we did, took her to the hospital. They gave her a very large container of opioids. We gave her one that night. It was the last one we gave her. She scared the grandkids. It was an interesting experience. After that, she treated it with Tylenol and she was fine. While investigating, I got one of those little bags to dispose of that bottle of opioids. We went through our medicine cabinets. We found a lot of opioids from past little things like wisdom teeth and things like that. I have 4 kids. Things happen, right? I think most Alaska families have that experience. Well, the danger is often not in the person who received the prescription. It's in folks that may find those opioids and become addicted because they're available. Most simply put, Mr. President, the overprescription of opioids in Alaska is killing Alaskans, and this bill will reduce addiction by reducing available prescription opioids. It's that simple. It's much easier to deal with existing addiction, than encouraging a system that creates new addiction cases on a regular basis. Please vote yes on House Bill 159, Mr. President.